How being antisocial makes you more powerful than any extrovert. Why your silent nature is your greatest superpower. Why your antisocial traits are actually your greatest strategic advantage. Ever wonder how Clint Eastwood became one of Hollywood's most commanding presences without saying much at all? The legendary actor and director built his entire career on strategic silence, calculated distance, and an almost supernatural ability to control any room simply by being present. While other actors fought for screen time and dialogue, Eastwood understood something profound: the less you reveal, the more power you wield. Society has brainwashed you into believing that success requires constant networking, endless small talk, and exhausting people-pleasing. You've been sold the lie that being antisocial is a character flaw that needs fixing. But here's the brutal truth nobody wants you to discover: your antisocial nature isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's your secret weapon in a world full of attention-desperate people who can't shut up long enough to think strategically. Think about the psychology behind this. When everyone else is desperately trying to be heard, the person who chooses silence automatically becomes magnetic. Your reluctance to engage creates curiosity. Your emotional distance generates intrigue. Your selective communication makes every word carry exponential weight. You become the enigma that everyone wants to decode, the puzzle that keeps people coming back. Eastwood perfected this approach throughout his career. On movie sets notorious for ego clashes and power struggles, he would arrive, do his job with minimal fanfare, and leave. No drama, no politics, no desperate attempts to be everyone's best friend. This antisocial approach didn't make him less influential, it made him legendary. Directors, producers, and fellow actors learned to respect the man who didn't need validation from anyone. The neuroscience backs this up completely. When someone can't read your intentions or predict your responses, their brain goes into overdrive trying to figure you out. They start projecting their own insecurities onto your silence. They begin overestimating your intelligence, your power, your importance. Your antisocial behavior triggers their survival instincts, making them see you as either a threat to be respected or an authority to be followed. This isn't about being rude or dismissive. It's about understanding that your natural inclination to observe rather than perform is actually a superpower in disguise. While others exhaust themselves trying to impress everyone, you're conserving energy for what actually matters. While they're revealing their weaknesses through oversharing, you're gathering intelligence about theirs. The antisocial advantage works because most people are so starved for authentic connection that they mistake your selective engagement for depth. They assume that someone who speaks less must have more valuable things to say. They believe that someone who chooses solitude must possess wisdom worth seeking. Your natural tendencies become interpreted as mysterious expertise. Drop legend in the comments if you're ready to embrace your antisocial nature as the strategic advantage it truly is, and hit that subscribe button to unlock more power secrets the mainstream won't teach you. How strategic indifference makes you emotionally bulletproof. When Michael Jordan faced the most brutal trash talk, psychological warfare, and media pressure in NBA history, he developed something his opponents couldn't break: strategic indifference to everything except winning. While other players got rattled by criticism, distracted by praise, or thrown off by mind games, Jordan cultivated an almost supernatural ability to remain emotionally untouchable. This wasn't coldness, it was calculated emotional intelligence. The biggest trap in human psychology is believing you need to care about everyone's opinion of you. Every criticism becomes a wound. Every slight becomes a mission to prove them wrong. Every piece of praise becomes an addiction you need more of. But this emotional reactivity is exactly what makes you weak, predictable, and easily manipulated by anyone who figures out how to push your buttons. Strategic indifference operates like an invisible force field around your psyche. Imagine walking into any situation: a job interview, social gathering, a business negotiation, with zero attachment to the outcome. Not because you don't want to succeed, but because you're so secure in your own value that external validation becomes irrelevant. This emotional detachment doesn't make you care less, it makes you perform better. Jordan demonstrated this principle every time he stepped on the court. Opposing teams would try everything to get under his skin: physical intimidation, verbal abuse, referee manipulation. But Jordan had trained himself to be indifferent to everything except his own performance standards. He didn't play to prove his critics wrong. He played because excellence was his only acceptable outcome. This indifference to external pressure made him unstoppable. Here's what happens psychologically when you master strategic indifference. People lose their power to manipulate your emotions. When someone tries to anger you and you remain calm, they become frustrated. When they try to flatter you and you stay grounded, they become confused. When they attempt to pressure you and you stay unmoved, they start questioning their own strategies. Your indifference becomes their weakness. The human brain is wired to seek emotional reactions from others. It's how we measure our impact, test our social standing, and validate our existence. When you refuse to give people the emotional reaction they're fishing for, you break their psychological script. They don't know how to categorize you, control you, or predict your next move. This uncertainty makes them treat you with more respect and caution. Strategic indifference doesn't mean becoming a robot without feelings. It means choosing when, where, and how to invest your emotional energy. It means responding instead of reacting. It means maintaining your center regardless of the chaos swirling around you. When you stop being a slave to other people's emotional triggers, you become the master of your own psychological state. Jordan's indifference to criticism allowed him to focus entirely on improvement rather than validation. His indifference to praise prevented complacency. His indifference to pressure situations made him clutch. He turned emotional detachment into competitive advantage, and that's exactly what you can do in every area of your life. Type bulletproof in the comments if you've ever felt the power of not caring what others think, and smash that like button to help this reach someone who needs to develop emotional armor. Why silent observation is your most dangerous weapon. Jeff Bezos built Amazon into the world's most powerful company using a strategy that most entrepreneurs completely ignore. He spent more time listening than talking, more time observing than pitching, more time studying customer behavior than promoting his own vision. While competitors were making noise about their revolutionary ideas, Bezos was quietly gathering data, identifying patterns, and positioning Amazon to dominate markets that didn't even exist yet. We live in an age of information overload, where everyone's desperate to broadcast their thoughts, opinions, and expertise. Social media has turned human interaction into a 24/7 performance where people compete for attention, validation, and viral moments. But this addiction to self-expression creates a massive blind spot that you can exploit. While everyone's talking, almost nobody is truly listening or observing strategically. The silent observer operates like a human intelligence agency. You're not just hearing words, you're decoding subtext, identifying power dynamics, mapping relationship networks, and spotting opportunities that loud people miss entirely. While others are focused on making their next point, you're gathering data about their insecurities, motivations, and weaknesses that you can leverage later. Bezos understood that information asymmetry creates competitive advantage. Before launching any new Amazon service, his teams would spend months studying user behavior patterns, competitor mistakes, and market inefficiencies. They didn't announce their plans or seek industry approval. They observed silently until they could strike with overwhelming precision. This approach transformed a bookstore into a global empire. Here's the psychological power of strategic observation. When you consistently listen more than you speak, people start projecting wisdom and intelligence onto your silence. They assume that someone who asks thoughtful questions must have deep insights. They believe that someone who remembers details about their conversations must be genuinely interested in their success. Your attention becomes more valuable than your opinions. The neuroscience is fascinating. Your brain processes information much more efficiently when it's not simultaneously trying to formulate responses or craft impressive statements. Silent observation allows you to notice micro-expressions that reveal deception, voice patterns that indicate stress, and behavioral inconsistencies that expose hidden agendas. You become a human lie detector and opportunity scanner. In business, relationships, and social situations, this observation advantage compounds over time. You start seeing patterns that others miss. You identify emerging trends before they become obvious. You spot character flaws before they cause problems. You recognize opportunities while others are still arguing about problems. Your silence becomes a strategic investment that pays dividends in power and influence. Bezos rarely gave interviews, avoided industry conferences, and maintained mysterious silence about Amazon's future plans. This observational approach allowed him to stay ahead of competitors, who telegraphed their strategies through constant self-promotion. While they were performing for the media, he was studying the game itself. The ultimate power of silent observation is that it makes you indispensable. When you consistently demonstrate that you see things others miss, understand dynamics others ignore, and anticipate changes others don't expect, people start seeking your counsel. Your rare words carry more weight than their frequent speeches. Comment, observer, if you're ready to turn your natural listening skills into a strategic advantage. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss these power principles. How to integrate these strategies into unshakable personal dominance. When Kobe Bryant developed his legendary Mamba mentality, he wasn't just creating a basketball philosophy, he was architecting a complete psychological framework that combined antisocial focus, strategic indifference, and relentless observation into an unstoppable force. Bryant understood that true dominance comes not from individual techniques, but from integrating all mental advantages into a single, cohesive mindset that makes you untouchable. By now, you understand that your antisocial tendencies aren't social defects. They're evolutionary advantages in a world full of attention addicts. You've learned that strategic indifference isn't emotional numbness, it's psychological freedom from external manipulation. You've discovered that silent observation isn't passive behavior, it's active intelligence gathering that gives you information superiority in every situation. But here's where most people fail. They try to use these strategies separately, switching between modes, instead of integrating them into a unified approach to life. The real transformation happens when antisocial behavior, strategic indifference, and silent observation become your natural operating system. Not conscious techniques you remember to use, but unconscious patterns that define how you move through the world. Kobe called this integration the Mamba mentality, a state of mind where you're completely focused on your objectives, antisocial to distractions, emotionally unaffected by criticism or praise, strategic indifference, and constantly studying ways to improve your performance. Silent observation. This wasn't something he turned on for games, it was how he lived every aspect of his life. The integration creates a psychological compound effect. Your antisocial nature protects your energy from being drained by unnecessary social obligations. Your strategic indifference protects your emotions from being manipulated by external pressures. Your silent observation feeds your mind with continuous intelligence about opportunities and threats. Together, they create an almost supernatural ability to stay focused, calm, and aware regardless of circumstances. This integrated mindset transforms how others perceive and interact with you. They can't waste your time because you're antisocially protective of it. They can't manipulate your emotions because you're strategically indifferent to their tactics. They can't surprise or deceive you because you're constantly observing and analyzing. You become someone who simply cannot be thrown off balance. Kobe's integration of these principles made him legendary not just as a player, but as a competitor. Opponents couldn't intimidate him, teammates couldn't distract him, media couldn't pressure him, and critics couldn't shake his confidence. He had created a psychological fortress that made him untouchable while remaining completely focused on continuous improvement. The ultimate goal isn't to become antisocial, indifferent, and silent as separate behaviors, it's to evolve into someone whose natural state embodies all three simultaneously. You don't have to remember to be strategic, because strategy becomes your default mode. You don't have to practice emotional control because emotional mastery becomes your baseline. You don't have to force yourself to observe because awareness becomes automatic. This is when you stop trying to have power and start being power. When you stop seeking respect and start commanding it naturally. When you stop chasing opportunities and start attracting them effortlessly. Your integrated mindset becomes a gravitational force that draws success toward you. Type Mamba in the comments if you're ready to integrate these principles into an unstoppable mindset, and share this video with someone who's tired of being manipulated by weaker minds.